Taste to Consider podcast. We are back for another episode. Yes, indeed. It's been a minute, yeah, almost 2 weeks, but it was for a reason. I was getting this show together. I had to put a little time into this show. This show is different than the normal format. Something that came to me, something that I wanted to do, something special for y'all. So let's get to it. But let me officially introduce the show. It's a Taste to Consider podcast. I'm your host, Dirk Silver, and we're back for another episode. Yes, it's been a minute. Yes, I know. Like I said, I know. Almost 2 weeks. I think so. Yeah, I think so. Time just be flying these days. The older you get, time just don't seem the same. But I'm back. I'm back. I'm back. And I got a special show for y'all. So I'm going to get right into it because I really don't know how long this show is going to be. I really don't know how long this episode is going to be. It was inspired by March Madness, the NCAA tournament. Yeah, I know I'm late. I know I'm late. I'm after the fact, but I'm still here. So I had this idea. This idea just came across, just came to me. Let me do my own. Let me do a bracket. And the bracket that came to me was a Black Love movie bracket. And if anybody that follow my main page, they know that, you know what I'm saying, I watch movies. Like, I talked about it before, even on the podcast, how, there's just something that my movie was like my companion when I was younger. Movies were my companion. That's what I spent a lot of time doing younger, was watching movies. That was like a babysitter, et cetera, et cetera. So, Black Love movies, right? So, I put together 16 movies. So, I got a sweet 16, a bracket of 16 movies that I will be discussing. What is the greatest Black love movie, right? So it took a minute, for me to get back and record and stuff because I had to put a criteria together. Because, I couldn't have this bracket, this tournament, be 100% biased. Of course, it's going to be biased to a certain degree because I'm actually the one that's watching the movies and critiquing them and stuff. So I had to put some rules in place. I had to put some categories in place on how I was going to judge these movies. So like I said, it's not 100% biased, but there is some bias to it. I tried to be as objective as possible. So that's why I came up with a lot of these rules and these categories to judge these movies on. So let me go over some of the rules first, all right? 3 rules. No true romantic comedies. And when I say no true romantic comedies, I mean no movies that's solely based on comedy but have a little romance in it. So some of these movies, a couple of these movies on the list could be considered a romantic comedy or a comedy/romance movie or a romance/comedy movie, meaning that the sole focus of the movie was romance, but they had a little comedy sprinkled in. Second rule, no sequels. Third and last rule is the movies that I selected were from the 90s up into the present time, right? So these are some of the categories these are the categories that I use to rate these movies. And I picked 6 categories. First category, story. What I mean by story is the overall story of the movie, how it flowed, and was it a good story? Did it make sense? Was it realistic? Two, acting. Acting is very important when you're watching the movie. Third, which I believe is very important, the feeling and emotion that this movie brings up out of you while you're watching it, right? Number four, the music in the movie, not the soundtrack, but the music in the movie, because that plays a part when it comes to love or romance movies. Shoot, any movie, honestly, the score and all that other stuff, that matters. Hold on. All right. Number five, love montage. And if you don't know what I'm meaning by love montage is, think about the Rocky movies, the training montage, when they show just a bunch of clips of Rocky training. They have that in love or romance movies. Not all, but some. But I picked this as a category because I seen it in a lot or a few of romantic movies. And last but not least, makeup scene, which is very important in a love or romantic movie. Those are the categories that I use to rate these movies by. So like I said, this is 16 movies. So we're doing a Sweet 16. If you aren't familiar with the NCAA tournament, once you get to the Sweet 16, you go on to the Elite 8, and then you go on to the Final 4, and then you go into the championship. So there are rounds. And although when I watched every movie, each and every 16 of these movies I watched them. Even though it's some of them that I've watched several times and I didn't really need to watch them because I already know them by heart, but I still watched them. So all of these 16 movies, I rated them according to these 6 ratings: story, acting, feeling / emotion, music, love montage, and makeup scene. Okay? But each round uses different ratings, right? So the first round, which is the Sweet 16, only uses the first 3 ratings. When you move on to the Elite 8, you use the first 4 ratings. When you move on to the Final 4, you use all 5 of the ratings. And when you get to the championship, you use all 6 ratings. And that is based on the versus, the competition between the 2 movies. But I gave each and every movie a rating based off of these 6 ratings, because at the end of the tournament or the bracket, I did a final movie rating based off of these 16 movies where I rated them based off of these particular 6 ratings after I watched them. But even before that, I gave these movies a rate. I gave them what is the term? I'm having a blank right now. What is the term? I basically gave each and every movie a rating, right? So it's 16 movies, so I had to divide them in 4s. Which movies are the number 1s? Which movies are the number 2s? Which movies are the number 3s? And which movies are the number 4s? And putting them in those categories or rating them that way in the beginning basically chose how they would be matched up in the first round. So let me start with how I decided these ratings off of the break. So like I said, I divided each movie into four groups. the number ones, the number twos, the number threes, and number fours. And the way I went off it, you know what I'm saying? Like I already said, there is a little bias to it, but the way that I rated them from the beginning was based off of my memory, my recollection, and how I see and hear people still talk about these movies from the moment that they came out to up until now. So the number one movies from the beginning before I watched them were Love Jones, Waiting to Exhale, Boomerang, and Love and Basketball. So Love Jones is the number one, number one. Waiting to Exhale is the number two, the second number one. Boomerang is the third number one. And Love and Basketball is the fourth number one. So I gave them ratings even within the category. And that was to place them in what I feel is the proper matchup. So the number twos, Best Man is the number one, number two. Brown Sugar is the second number two. Poetic Justice is the third number two. The Wood is the fourth number two. So on to the threes. The third seeds. There we go, seeds. I kept messing. I was getting a blank. So the seeds, the number one seeds, the number two seeds, and number three seeds. So the number three seeds. The top number three seed is The Photograph. The second number three seed is Jason's Lyric. The third number three seed is Sylvie's Love. The fourth number three seed is How Stella Got Her Groove Back. I know some of y'all probably like, what the hell? So moving on to the last seed, the fourth seed. The number one fourth seed is Disappearing Acts. The number two, the second fourth seed is If Beale Street Could Talk. The third number four seed is Journal for Jordan. And the last number four seed is Really Love. All right. I know some of y'all like, what? So let me read now the honorable mentions, because I had a list of movies. I did research. You know what I'm saying? I looked up black love movies, black romance movies from the 90s all the way up. And it took a minute because, you know, you got to go through the categories. Some movies are considered comedies. Some movies are considered romances. Some movies are considered dramas, et cetera, et cetera. So here are the honorable mentions. Have Plenty, Not Easily Broken, The Brothers, Inkwell, Why the Fools Fall in Love, Beyond Lights, Strictly Business, Deliver Us from Eva, Jumping the Broom, Just Right, Think Like a Man, Two Can Play That Game, and Why Did I Get Married? I believe, yeah, that's all of the honorable mentions. And like I said, the way that I picked the actual movies for the Sweet 16, the first round, is no true romantic comedies. So that's why you didn't see Think Like a Man and Two Can Play That Game and stuff like that. No sequels, so that's why you ain't getting no Best Man 2 or 3 and all that. And also, like I said, I picked movies based off of the popularity and the talk and you know, feel of what movies were big or popular and still are popular to this day when it comes to people discussing black love or black romantic movies. All right, so getting that out the way, getting the logistics out the way, let's get to the actual bracket, right? So like I said, I gave them categories. I gave them categories uh, or ratings within their actual seed. And that's how I put the competitions together or the verses together. So, like I said, Love Jones was the number one. So, naturally, the number one is going to go against the last number 4 seed. So, it's Love Jones versus Really Love. Next, it's Poetic Justice versus Jason's Lyric. So, Poetic Justice is the third number 2 seed, and Jason Lyric is the number 2-3 seed. I ain't gonna keep explaining all this. You'll get, if you've been paying attention, you'll get it. But I don't think it really matters to some of y'all. I think some of y'all just want to see what's gonna happen. So, all right, Love Jones versus Really Love, Poetic Justice versus Jason Lyric, Love and Basketball versus Disappearing Acts, Best Man versus Stella Got a Groove Back, Boomerang versus Bill If Bill Street Could Talk, Brown Sugar versus Sylvie Love, Waiting to Exhale versus Journal for Jordan, The Wood versus The Photograph. That's the first round. That's the Sweet 16. So let's start let's start the competition. I got all these damn papers because I really did some work on this. I really did. So the first competition, the first verses, Love Jones versus Really Love. And I enjoy both of these movies. I really do. Like, both of these movies I really enjoy. If people have been following me, they know they seen me watch these two movies several times before. And if anybody who's listened to this podcast and known me, they know how much I love Nia Long. So, like I said, I had to put ratings and categories in place so it wouldn't be no bias, because I could have just straight went through them and like, all right, Nia Long, every movie Nia Long in is passing through. Or since Pac is in Poetic Justice, you know what I'm saying, he moving through. But I had to hold myself accountable to a degree with this. But like I said, there is going to be some bias because I'm the one that's actually watching the movies and I got different taste than other people and all that other stuff. So, first competition, Love Jones versus Really Love. And like I said, in the Sweet 16, we're only rating these movies off of the first 3 categories. Number 1, story. Number 2, acting. And number 3, feeling/emotion. So, Love Jones. We all know Love Jones. Love Jones is a classic. Love Jones is probably damn near everybody's number 1 black love romance movie out here. You got Lorenz Tate, Nia Long. You got the poetry, you know what I'm saying? I'm brother to the night poem and all that other stuff. Is you know what I'm saying? It's no getting around how people feel about Love Jones. So Love Jones was a great movie, right? Love Jones was a great movie. So let's start with story. And within these categories of these ratings, I'm giving them out of 5, right? So, story for Love Jones. You got to say Love Jones was a really good, it had a really good story to it. You know what I'm saying? It had some good moments. Even though, like, when you the older I've gotten and I've watched Love Jones over and over again, I just look at it like, damn, Nia Long's character, Mia, was messy as hell. When she went out with Bill Bellamy, Lorenz Tate boy, and all that other stuff, and then she went, even before that, she went back to New York and was with my man from Juice and Girlfriends and whatever, her ex and all that. It was just, she was messy as hell in that movie. And it's funny to watch it being older, because I was watching that movie ever since it came out when I was probably, when the movie come out. I forgot when the movie came out, like the early or mid '90s. So I was probably like a early teenager or something like that. But she was messy in that movie. But the movie was good. Had, you know what I'm saying, the story or whatever was good. I gave the story a 4.5, 4.5 out of 5. Acting. I thought the acting was real good. They had some real good actors in there. Lawrence Tate, Neil Long, um, Isaiah Washington, the dude from Drumline, which is crazy because in Drumline he was playing a college student, but in Love Jones he was playing a full grown adult. But those movies are probably like 10 years apart from each other. But yeah, the acting was cool. It wasn't really. I didn't see any corny things like that because it was certain. Like when I was paying attention to the acting, I was looking for like, is it any corny moments or like was just like some of the acting just really bad, or I was paying attention to each individual. Bill Bellamy did a good job. Um, so I gave the acting a 5. I gave the acting a 5 because it really was strong acting. It wasn't for what the story was. The acting didn't need to be that complex. So I felt as though the acting went right along with the story. So I gave the acting a 5. Feeling emotion. Hey, like I said, Love Jones is a classic. You know what I'm saying, with the poetry and stuff like that. And this is when it comes down to like where you can't really help the bias. So I've been a fan of Love Jones for a long time. Like watching Love Jones was basically what had me writing poetry to girls when I was in middle school and high school. So yeah, the feeling and emotion, and then like just thinking, I don't want to get too ahead of myself. Like just thinking about the movie and the makeup scene and all that other stuff like that. It really pulled you in. So I gave that a 4 out of. I didn't think it was perfect because I thought like, you know what I'm saying, and that ties in probably to like the story, like with the messy part of what Nia Long did or whatever. I just can, like, I know stuff like that happens, but it just seemed like a little off with how messy she was in the movie and stuff like that. And that kind of went into like the feeling and emotion of it. But I gave the feeling and emotion 4.5. So the rating for the the overall rating for the Sweet 16 for Love Jones was a 14. A 14 for Love Jones. So now moving along to Really Love. Really Love came out in on Netflix, I believe, in 2021, and it came out during the pandemic. And I just remember like being on social media and hearing all these people talk about this movie, Really Love, Really Love. I saw like big pages posting about it and stuff like that, and talking about the fact that that dude was acting in it. I forgot his name. Um, Let me pull it up. I don't want to be disrespectful. Really Love, Really Love, Really Love. But he playing Queen Sugar, because I used to watch Queen Sugar. What's his name? I know the women be going crazy over. So the movie came out in 2020, but I believe it was actually released on Netflix in 2021. But I may be wrong, but it definitely came out during the pandemic. So I believe that kind of hurt it, but at the same time it didn't, because like I said, I just kept seeing all this stuff being posted about it on social media. So Kofi Cerebro. I hope I ain't mess up his last name, and that's probably why it got so much attention or whatever, because this was like a lead role, and like a lot of black women they be into him. So the movie was supposed to be based in DC, right? So what I had what I kind of had an issue with the movie was the fact that they didn't have no DC actors in it. Like they could have had at least some DC actors in it, cause like some of the acting was was bad when they was trying to speak the language and of what I'm saying, the DC, us DC folks or us DMV folks, because I'm from PG County. I spent enough time and I worked in DC, went to elementary school in DC, so I'm just as much a part of DC as I am PG County, and vice versa. Because honestly, when you think about it, most PG County is just a suburb of DC, and when you a lot of people going back and forth and family move back and forth to DC, so it's like you're a part of it regardless. But back to the movie, really love. Yeah, I had an issue with they didn't really have any local actors. Um, the only one that was really you could consider was a local actor was Michael Ealy. Michael Ealy was in it, but he's from Maryland, the suburbs of DC. Um, it had some low budget moments to it. It definitely was a low budget movie. But it still held its own. Like even though I enjoyed the movie even before I did this, I really took time to like go through the movie and pay attention to certain things. And even though it was a low budget movie, it held its own. I mean, you can tell that, what I'm saying, this movie was inspired by Love Jones a little bit. And it's another movie that's part of this tournament that was, you can tell, was inspired by Love Jones. Even the director and the writer spoke on that. But back to Really Love. Okay, story. I gave the story a 4 out of 5. I thought the story was pretty good. Like I said, it had some low budget moments that probably messed up the story a little bit, but it was still a strong story. So number 2, acting. Like I said, I didn't like the acting, so to speak, because they didn't have any local actors, and they was basing the movie, and they paid so much attention and put so much of a focus on the movie being about DC, but there wasn't no DC actors in it. So I gave acting a 3 out of 5. Feeling and emotion, I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. I thought, like I said, this is when it really becomes biased. Excuse me, burp number 1. So, feeling and emotion, 4 out of 5. I thought the movie related, the feeling and emotion related to the story definitely was heavy at times. It definitely was heavy. Like, and if you're as old as I am, you've gone through enough relationship stuff, you could relate to some of the things that went on in the movie. And I gave it a 4 out of 5. I honestly could have gave it a 5 because it was that, what I'm saying, it was that deep at times for me. But I left it at a 4 out of 5. 4.5 out of 5. So the overall score for the Sweet 16 for Really Love was 11.5. So of course, Love Jones moves on. They won that versus, that competition, that first round. So moving on to the next 2 movies, Poetic Justice versus Jason Lurid. So yeah, Poetic Justice, another classic. Janet Jackson, Tupac, Joe Torre. This is bad. This is bad that I'm forgetting a great actress, black actress name. So I gotta pull it up and watch when. As soon as I say it, I'm gonna be like, damn, how the hell I forget that? Regina King. I ain't even have to finish searching. Regina King. Great cast. Great cast. Like just like with Love Jones, but focusing on Poetic Justice. Poetic Justice, classic movie. Starting with the story. I gave the story a 4 out of 5. I thought the story was good, but I thought it was different. It was different. it was different, but it was still good. It was different for the simple fact that they was going on a road trip in the in the mail truck, and I thought the story lost me when I'm with me focusing on the competition. The story lost me when they finally got to Oakland and Pac pulled up to his aunt's house and then his cousin dead. Like, you didn't see that coming. So yeah, maybe that could have been a twist, but at the same time, it was yeah. But ultimately it made sense because being in Cali and Oakland and stuff like that, those crime ridden areas and stuff like that. But you just didn't see that coming. But it was just yeah. But I thought overall the story was good though. It had some classic moments when they went up into the family reunion and stuff like that, and cousin Pete and all that other stuff. So I gave the story a 4 out of 5. Acting, I gave that a 4.5 out of 5. Everybody did a good job. Joe Torre, Pac, Regina King, Janet. You know what I'm saying? I honestly could have gave the acting a 5, and I could have gave that a 5 just based off of Janet Jackson alone, because even before this movie came out, we all know who Janet Jackson was. And even now, what I'm saying, depending on your age or whatever, if you know who Janet Jackson is or whatever, and then you actually watch this movie, she did a great job convincing you that she was from the hood. So I really could have gave it a 5, but I stuck with a 4.5 out of 5 because of I caught some stuff with the acting on a particular scene, um, but I can't recall right now what it was. But I made a note of it. So feeling and emotion. I gave that a score of 4 out of 5, and the reason I gave that because the movie was pretty baseline as far as the emotions went. Like, you didn't really hit an extreme emotion until Pac and them got to Oakland, and then he found out his cousin died, and towards the end when the makeup scene came. But before that, it pretty much was pretty balanced and even with the emotion part, other than when Pac and Janet was was cussing each other out or whatever. Well, no, I can't say that because it was other portions with Joe Torre and Regina King when they was going through their stuff and her being an alcoholic and stuff. But I didn't really factor that in too much with the feelings and emotion of love and romance or whatever. Well, I guess I could have. So yes, but I'ma still keep it at a 4. I'ma still keep it at a 4. I watched this movie so many times, like, you know what I'm saying? So I'm picturing the whole thing in my mind as I'm talking. But I'ma still leave it at 4, the feeling and emotion, because like I said, this is when the bias mostly comes in. And for me, it was pretty even kill until you got towards the end portion of it. So Poetic Justice, the overall Sweet 16 score is a 12.5. So moving on to Jason Lyric. And I got an interesting story about this Jason Lyric movie. I was in the 8th grade when I first saw this movie, right? 8th grade, I was in middle school. I was getting ready to go on a field trip to Philadelphia with my class. Paid for it and everything. My parents paid for it and everything. All of a sudden, I got the chicken pox. First time I had the chicken pox. 8th grade, I was 11 or 12, depending on what month it was, because my birthday is in November. So I caught the chicken pox. First time I caught the chicken pox. And I had that joint all over my body. And I mean all over my body. So I got the chicken pox. I couldn't go on the field trip. I had to stay home. So like I said, movies was my companion. So I had to stay home. My parents was at work. My brother was at school and all that other stuff. I had to stay home by myself or whatever, which I did a lot. So like I said, that's why movies and stuff was my companion. TV and stuff. I lived through TV and stuff like that. So I remember having chicken pox, being sick, couldn't go on the field trip, couldn't go to school, nothing. Had to stay home. My mother bought me the VHS tape of Jason Lyrics. And if y'all seen Jason Lyrics, y'all know how that movie is. So I was 11 and 12, not to judge my mother or anything like that, because back then, you know what I'm saying, back in those times, I'm talking like I'm really old. You know what I'm saying? Black parents usually let you watch stuff like that. I mean, it is what it is. So, not to judge my parents or whatever, but my mom bought me the VHS tape of Jason Lyric. And I remember being at home, first day that I was at home, I couldn't go on the field trip. I watched the VHS tape. And I watched it a couple of times. I thought it was a really good movie back then. So, we're here now in the present moment. Man, story. I gave the story a 3, and that probably was generous. This movie was fucking awful. This movie is awful. When I actually went through the criteria and really critiqued the movie, this movie was awful. Jason Lyrics was awful. It was an awful movie. And it had a good cast in it. It had Forrest Whitaker, Bokeem Woodbine, Jada Pinkett Smith. Let me see the other people. I gotta get this right. My man from Allen Payne, my man from New Jack City. I said Bokeem Woodbine, Lisa Nicole Carson, who was also in Love Jones. And that is definitely what I noticed, which I already knew, but I paid attention to it even more. A lot of these movies on this list got the same damn actors in it, and it's sad. And Suzanne Douglas. Suzanne Douglas was also in Really Love, and rest in peace to her. She died right after they finished filming Really Love. It didn't even come out yet, and she passed. So rest in peace to her. Eddie Griffin was in it. Lorenz Tate brother was in the jump, but Tretch was in it, and yeah. So this movie was awful. Like, this movie was some trash. So like I said, story, I gave it a 3. The story was just, when you actually sit down, it was weird. It was weird to me. Acting, 3. The acting in that joint was horrible. So I was generous by giving it a 3. They were supposed to have been in Louisiana. The accents was awful. Oh man. 3. Feeling and emotion, I gave it a 2. And that's why I said the feeling and emotion portion is probably where the most bias comes in, because I might have checked out by then, but it wasn't really too much feeling and emotion to it once I actually sat down and was actually critiquing the movie and looking. I was just like, I just couldn't wait for the movie to be over with. So the overall rating for the Sweet 16 for Jason Lyrics was an 8. So that means Poetic Justice moves on to the Elite 8. They move on to the next round. Poetic Justice beats Jason Lyric. All right. Next matchup. Love and Basketball versus Disappearing Acts. Love and Basketball versus Disappearing Acts. Love and Basketball, another classic. Another classic. Story-wise, I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. I thought the story, was good, really good, or it was good, really good. How they connected, the relationship between Sanaa Lathan and Omar Epps characters with basketball. So I thought that was a really good concept, something different, something new, when it came out or whatever. So I gave that a 4.5 out of 5. Acting wise, I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. The acting wasn't really good in that joint, honestly. When I actually paid attention to it, the acting wasn't really good. Even like the supporting characters, the acting wasn't that strong or whatever. And they had some pretty good, you know what I'm saying, actors in the joint. They had the All-State dude, the black dude, All-State Miami. He was in Waiting to Exhale, another movie that's on the list. They had the lady from um the stories when I was a younger kid, and she would be in the stories. Let me pull that up. I should have had all this shit ready because I knew I was gonna have to look back at the cast and stuff. Let me see. I want to get her name right. Regina Hall was in it, and you know Regina Hall was in Best Man. Regina Hall was in a couple of other movies on this list. Um, Kyla Pratt was in it. Gabrielle Union was in it. Boris Kojo, Tyra Banks, Monica Calhoun. She was in The Best Man and all that other stuff. Alfre Woodard. She's a strong actress. Um, what that lady that was in the stories? I forgot her name. I don't know why she didn't come up as the main character because she was Omar Epps' mother in the movie. Here she go. Debbie Morgan. Yeah, Debbie Morgan. What story did she play in? Oh yeah, All My Children. Yep, she was on All My Children. I remember her so much because of her dimples. I mean, that's pretty much how everybody remember her dimples. But yeah, Loving Basketball was a cool movie. Had a cool story to it. I gave the story 4.5 out of 5. Acting 3.5 out of 5. The acting wasn't very strong. It just wasn't. Feeling and emotion. I gave it a 4. I gave it a 4 out of 5. Um, it definitely had its moments, when some of the things that's popping in my head right now when Sanaa Lathan and Omar Epps' characters first broke up, and when they got back together and all that other stuff, and when when Omar Epps' mom and dad was going through their issues because his dad was cheating and all that other stuff. So it had, you know what I'm saying, some moments to it that, hit me. So the overall score for the Sweet 16, the first round for Love and Basketball, I gave it a 12. I gave it a 12. That's the score. So, Disappearing Acts. Disappearing Acts was a straight to TV movie, but it was an HBO movie. It was an HBO movie. It didn't come out in the movie theaters. And this movie, to me, is a sad ass movie. Just that's always been my thoughts on on Disappearing Acts, from my memory. So Wesley Snipes was in it, and Sanaa Lathan. Here we go, Sanaa Lathan again. Regina Hall was in it as well. Regina Hall again. Q-Tip was in it. There was a lot. John Amos was in it. It was a lot of actors in it, known actors. Michael Imparelli, whatever, however you pronounce his name. He was on The Sopranos and stuff like that. Anjanou Ellis, she was in it. So it was definitely had, you know, known people in it, whether they were in the beginning of their career or in the prime of their career or whatever. But Disappearing Acts, yeah. I thought that joint was a sad ass movie. But I gave the story a 4.5 out of 5. I thought it was a good movie. A good movie. And what's interesting about this matchup is Gina Prince Bythewood did both of these movies. She directed both of these movies. I believe Disappearing Acts was written by, I think it was written by Terry McMillan. Let me see. I think it was written by Terry McMillan. Yeah, it was written by Terry McMillan. Of course, Terry McMillan wrote another movie in this competition, this bracket, this tournament. But Gina Prince Bythewood, she's a black director. She did Woman King and movie, a good movie. And what's interesting about this matchup is Gina Prince Bythewood did both of these movies. She directed both of these movies. I believe Disappearing Acts was written by, I think it was written by Terry McMillan. Oh, let me see. I think it was written by Terry McMillan. Yeah, it was written by Terry McMillan. Of course, Terry McMillan wrote another movie in this competition, this bracket, this score because of how strong the story was. But Sanaa Lathan's character, she's a singer, and of course, we don't know Sanaa Lathan to be a singer, so they used someone else's voice during the singing portions of the movie. And yeah, it wasn't convincing when Sanaa Lathan was lip singing. And that's the only reason why it got a 3.5 out of 5. But other than that, the acting was solid. But I had to penalize it that way because they had a few singing scenes and the lip singing just wasn't working. So feeling and emotion, like I said, this is probably one of the most realistic movies in this tournament, this bracket, this competition. So I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. I could have gave it a 5. I could have, but I kept it at a 4.5 out of 5. So the overall score for the Sweet 16 for Disappearing Acts is a 12.5. Yes, 12.5. It beats Love and Basketball. Our first upset. Disappearing Acts was a 4 seed, and it beats a number 1 seed. Disappearing Acts was a better movie, a more realistic movie than Love and Basketball. Love and Basketball was a cute, fun movie. Disappearing Acts was a real movie. So Disappearing Acts moves on. It upsets Love and Basketball. Yes, we have upsets in this tournament, in this bracket. It ain't going to be what you think it is, you know. So moving on to the next versus or competition is Best Man versus Stella Got Her Groove Back. I know some of y'all are like, how the hell Stella got her groove back making this jump? But hey, I had to go off, like I said, refer back to the beginning. So Best Man versus Stella Got Her Groove Back. So we got Taye Diggs in both of these movies, all right? The Best Man is another classic. So yeah, I thought the story was really good, and it was creative how they tied it around Taye Diggs' character writing the book and how it mimicked the relationships and told the story and all that other stuff, and how everything was centered around that book. So I gave the story a 4.5 out of 5. 4.5 out of 5. The acting, outstanding cast, of course. So I gave it a 4. I gave it a 4 out of 5. The reason it didn't get 4.5 out of 5 or 5 because there was some shaky moments to some of the acting in it. Feeling and emotion, I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. Now, let's be honest, going through all of that with Morris Chestnut and all he went through, the ups and downs of that, the fighting scene, the stuff that Taye Diggs and Sanaa Lathan was going through with their relationship. It was a lot of layers going on in that movie. And then getting to the wedding part and stuff like that. And who don't get all gushy and emotional with weddings and wedding scenes? So I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. So Best Man got a 13 for their overall score for the Sweet 16. Stella Got Her Groove Back. Stella Got Her Groove Back was an awful movie. It was an awful movie. the story, and this is another Terry McMillan story. Stella got a groove back. The story, I gave it a 3. The story wasn't strong at all, and 3 was probably generous. 3 is pretty much average. So yeah, it wasn't too much to talk about with the story. A middle-aged woman. What was she? 43 in the movie, or 41 or 43? Shit, damn near in the same age as me, down there messing with a 20-year-old. The acting, I gave it a 3, and that was generous because Tay Diggs' Jamaican accent was just awful. It was awful. Like, why they just can't find Jamaican people for the movie? Why they couldn't just find a Jamaican dude for this movie? They ain't got no Jamaican actors out here. Just like with the Really Love. I mean, come on now. You can find one DC actor that know how to speak the language and got the accent and stuff. Come on. Feeling and emotion. I gave it a 3. I mean, that's average. I pretty much gave it average across the board. There ain't too much to talk about with how Stella got a groove back. That's why, yeah. The overall score for Stella got a groove back for the Sweet 16 is a 9. So, I mean, did you expect the upset here after last round? I hope you didn't, because Best Man is moving on. Oh, man. Okay. Next competition, next versus, next challenge. Boomerang versus Beale Street Couture. Boomerang, another classic, a number 1 seed. Classic. And this was one of the sticky portions of when I was putting this together, because you got Eddie Murphy, you got comedians in this movie. Eddie Murphy, Martin Lawrence, David Allen Greer, Chris Rock. So this movie could have been considered a true romantic comedy. But I really had to do some research and go through and look at the story and stuff. So this was really a romance that had comedy sprinkled in. And that the only reason the comedy was sprinkled in was because of the actors that was in it. But when you really look at the movie or whatever, it was really supposed to be a love romance movie. You got the love interest, Halle Berry and stuff like that. And the story was basically centered around romance. The story wasn't centered around comedy before romance. It was centered around romance that had comedy in it. So it wasn't a true romantic comedy. So story, 4.5 out of 5. The title of the movie, Boomerang, and how the story went or whatever. You know, Eddie Murphy being the player, the dog or whatever, and then they're getting Boomerang right around him when he started messing with can't believe I be forgetting these people's name. I'm looking at her face right now in my mind, but can't remember her name. And watch, as soon as I see her name, I know, don't y'all hate when that happen? Let me see. Boomerang. Robin Givens, Lord have mercy. Robin Givens, yeah, Robin Givens. So Robin Givens gave Eddie Murphy a taste of his own medicine. So I thought the story was really good. The movie was a really good ass movie. Like, Boomerang is really a good ass movie. That's why it's a number 1. Acting, I gave it a 4 out of 5. The acting was really good. It had its moments with some of the supporting acting that didn't put it in the 4.5 or 5 place position. Feeling and emotion. And even though it was a comedy, that's what made it a romantic or love movie. The feeling and emotion you got from it, from Eddie Murphy getting a taste of his own medicine getting played, and the part when Eddie Murphy started dating Halle Berry, and then that turmoil that went with that when Eddie Murphy tried to dip back in with Robert Givens and all that other stuff, and then the makeup scene that isn't rated in the Sweet 16, but just the overall feeling and emotion, that I gave it a 4 out of 5. So the overall score in the Sweet 16 for Boomerang is a 12.5. So Beale Street Could Talk. And I gotta be honest, this was my first time ever watching Beale Street Could Talk. I remember when the movie came out, all these people was talking about it, and it just didn't move me from the trailers and all that other stuff. And I'm happy to say that I was correct. This movie was trash. This movie was trash. This movie was confusing as hell. Um, the story was a 3, and that's generous. I just gave it an average score. It was the way they put this together. I don't understand what the fuck was going on in this movie. But interestingly enough, the acting I gave a 4. The acting I gave a 4. I mean, the acting was pretty good as opposed to what the story was. But the feeling and emotion, I gave that shit a 2. I got nothing from it. I got nothing from it. I had to stop myself from picking up my phone while the movie was playing because I was like, what the hell is going on? It was like eating chicken that wasn't seasoned. So the overall score for If Beale Street Could Talk was a 9. So Boomerang moves on. Brown Sugar. Brown Sugar versus Sylvie's Love. Brown Sugar. Another classic. Another classic. Got Sanaa Lathan in it. Taye Diggs. Familiar faces. The story. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. Possibly could have gave it a 5 because of how they put the movie together. They centered the movie around hip hop. The theme of the movie was hip hop, and they centered it around they used the relationship between Sanaa Lathan and Taye Diggs and just love overall. They used hip hop as the metaphor for it. Sort of similar to Love and Basketball. Another movie that Sanaa Lathan was in. But yeah, I gave it a 4.5 out of 5, the story. Acting, I gave it a 4. The acting wasn't that strong. I mean, Sanaa Lathan, she's a strong actress, pretty good actress. No, nothing wrong with her. They had Mos Def in it. Mos Def is a really good actor, even though he's a rapper. Taye Diggs just isn't a strong actor. So it got a 4. Queen Latifah was in it too. Queen Latifah is a strong actress. I just don't know about Equalizer. And I haven't watched it, but I ain't buying it. I ain't buying it. So I gave the acting a 4 out of 5. Feeling and emotion. I gave that a 4.5 out of 5. That it really hits you. To me, Brown Sugar really hit me. Like it was certain moments of it that really hit me. The makeup scene and all that other stuff, it really hit me. Like the feeling and emotion throughout that movie, the breakups, the wanting this person, can't have this person, da 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 da. It was a really strong, strong movie when it came to feelings and emotions. So the overall Sweet 16 score for Brown Sugar, I gave a 13. So moving on to Sylvie's Love. Now, I remember watching this movie, and I said to myself, it shouldn't have been called Sylvie's Love. It should have been called Sylvie's Mess. Because it was a mess during the movie. But that has nothing to do with the ratings I'm going to give it. I just thought that, it was some messy stuff going on in the movie. But the story, it was a period piece. Sylvie's Love was a period piece. It happened in 1950s Harlem. It was centered around jazz and stuff like that. So I definitely enjoyed that. You know what I'm saying? I've grown to enjoy jazz a lot, but we not judging the music in the Sweet 16. So let me stick to the Sweet 16 categories. Story, 4.5 out of 5. Like, this movie was different watching it again when I actually sat down and had these categories in place and I was actually critiquing the movie based off of these categories. Not saying that the first time I watched it that I didn't enjoy it, but I paid attention to it a little bit more this time, which I had to. So 4.5 out of 5 story. The story was really good, really strong. I mean, it went great with the period piece portion of it and everything. The acting, I gave the acting a 5 out of 5. Like, and the chemistry and all of that, the acting was top tier. Even the fact that Namdi Asamoah was acting in it, and he was an NFL cornerback, and I don't know. I don't believe this was. I don't know. I can't remember if this was his first starring. I believe this was his first starring role. I'm not sure if this was his first acting gig, but he did a great job in Sylvie's Love. Like, he did a better job to me than Tessa Thompson did. So I gave that joint a 5 out of 5. Um, Feeling emotion, I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. This was a very strong movie. Sylvie's Love, when I actually sat down and paid attention to it and had the categories in place and stuff like that, Sylvie's Love was a very good movie. So it's definitely a movie that I'm going to go back to from time to time now, because it really surprised me this second time around seeing it. So the overall Sweet 16 score of Sylvie's Love is a 14. We have another upset. Sylvie's Love has moved on and beat Brown Sugar. Yes. I really enjoyed that movie the second time watching it. So, next competition, next versus, next matchup. Let me take a sip. I'm drinking Gentleman Jack tonight. Or this evening. Wait and Exhale versus Journal for Jordan. Wait and Exhale, a classic. Classic movie. Classic. Terry McMillan movie. Directed by Forrest Whitaker. Forrest Whitaker was in Jason's Lyric. So, the story. I gave it a 4 out of 5. Yes, I know you like 4 out of 5. Yeah, 4 out of 5. I mean, it was a good story, but I don't think it hit the 4.5, 5 part. Like, Wait and Exhale is a really good movie, but I just don't think the story was great. I think the story was good. So I gave it a 4. Like, I mean, being a man sitting there watching the movie and not making that the sole reason why I don't feel it was a great story, but like the exhale parts, the more and more I watch Waiting to Exhale, the exhale parts or the exhale scenes in the movie, and maybe the book makes it make more sense than the movie does, because Waiting to Exhale was a book before it was a movie. The exhales didn't make sense to me in the movie when they actually happen with the people that they actually happen with. Like, you'll have certain moments where the women was exhaling when they was dealing with men that was trash men or the situations didn't work out or whatever. I was thinking, just sitting there thinking like waiting to exhale. I'm thinking that the exhale moments was like the ultimate moment when you falling in love. And not to say that you can't fall in love and it don't work out, because that does happen. But I don't know, maybe that was just my thinking of it. So maybe that was the biased portion of it. My thinking of it being the waiting to exhale. Because when you look at the term waiting to exhale, so I'm thinking the finality part of waiting to exhale. So that just could be my own bias, my own perception of things. But Waiting to Exhale still is a great movie. The story still is only but a 4 out of 5. The acting, I only gave the acting a 4 out of 5. And there was some strong actresses in this movie, strong actors as well. You got Loretta Devine, great actress. Angela Bassett, great actress. Angela Bassett was also in How Stella Got a Groove Back. Layla Rashawn, she was a pretty good actress, strong actress. But rest in peace, Whitney Houston. Whitney Houston just didn't do a good job acting in that movie in certain portions. And then you had the All-State man in it too. He was also in Love and Basketball. Who else? There was a lot of people in that damn movie. But I think that really what gave the score for the acting portion was Whitney Houston just didn't have a strong acting in that movie. Wendell Pierce was in it, great actor. Gregory Hines was in it. He's a strong actor. Michael T. Williamson. I mean, we all know you raggedy bitch. Can I use your bathroom? Donald Faison, Michael Beach, um, Leon was in that joint. Yeah, I mean, it had a great cast to it, but I only gave the acting a 4 out of 5. Feeling and emotion. I gave it a 4 out of 5. A lot of it was centered around the female point of view, so I couldn't really resonate with everything, but it still gave you could still understand the feeling and emotions of things if you was able to put yourself in um, the lady's shoes or whatever. So the overall Sweet 16 score um, for Waiting to Exhale was 12. So moving on to the competition, the verses of Waiting to Exhale, the matchup of Waiting to Exhale is Journal for Jordan. Journal for Jordan is a fairly new movie. I seen it in the movie theater, and of course I watched it again for this competition, and it has Michael B. Jordan in it, and I always mess up her name, even though I call her. That's because I probably be focused too much on calling her the new Nia Long, or my new Nia Long. Um, Shantae Adams, Michael B. Jordan. Um, I gave the story a 4 out of 5. I mean, I honestly could have gave it a 4.5 out of 5. I could have gave it a 5 out of 5 because it was a true story. But I mean, all true stories aren't portrayed perfectly when it comes to movies or television. So from just watching it and doing research on the story, when I first saw the movie and stuff like that, I gave it a 4 out of 5 because it seemed kind of rushed. They didn't really go into a lot of the complexities of Michael B. Jordan's character and Shantae Adams' character, their relationship, which was a real relationship. This was a true story. So I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. I mean, 4 out of 5. 4 out of 5. Let me repeat that again. Acting. I gave the acting a 3.5 out of 5. And not to be funny and rag on Michael B. Jordan, but I mean, Michael B. Jordan is not the strongest actor. He's serviceable actor. So I mean, and honestly, he didn't have a lot of lines in the movie. Like Shantae Adams did most of the leg work in the movie, and she did a great job. But Michael B. Jordan, yeah, it is what it is. So I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. The acting, feeling and emotion, I gave it a 4 out of 5. And like I said, they didn't really go too much into the complexities of Michael B. Jordan's character and Shantae Adams' character's relationship. It felt kind of rushed, so you couldn't really get a lot of connect with a lot of the feelings and emotions of the movie. But it was good enough to give it a 4 out of 5 because of what happened at the end of the movie and just overall, just the just how relationships go. Period. When you meet somebody new and you going through it and all that other stuff, and the traumas that you had from growing up and how that translates to your romantic relationships and stuff like that. So it definitely had those moments in it and those portions that added to the 4 out of 5 score. So the overall Sweet 16 score for Journal for Jordan was 11.5. So Waiting to Exhale won this close matchup. So Waiting to Exhale moves on. So the last matchup in the Sweet 16 is The Wood versus The Photograph. The Wood, a classic movie. Came out in 1999. Had a lot of the similar actors in it. Omar Epps and Taye Diggs and Sanaa Lathan was in this. So the story. I gave the story a 4 out of 5. The story was good. It wasn't great. It was good. It had a good story. Taking it back to high school and doing the back and forth with the memories and the present time and stuff like that. It was a very nostalgic movie. Like while I'm watching this movie, and this could speak to the feeling and emotion as well. While I'm watching this movie, I'm going back to the days that I was in middle school and high school, and when I, had girlfriends and stuff like that, and you you back in middle school and high school and that age, and you thinking that you're gonna date this person forever and get married and type of stuff like that. So it was a very nostalgic movie. So the story, I gave it a 4 out of 5. It was a pretty good story. Very, I'll say it was a good story. It was a good story. It wasn't a great story. The acting, 3.5 out of 5. And the reason why I gave the actor 3.5 out of 5 was because Tay Diggs just wasn't. Tay Diggs just isn't a strong actor. I'm sorry. He's a serviceable actor. Um, Feeling and emotion. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5, and that piggybacking off of the nostalgia and all that other stuff. It definitely gave you a good feeling and emotion with you know um having those nostalgic moments of the little girlfriends or boyfriends that you had in middle school and high school, and thinking that y'all gonna be in love forever, and the high school sweethearts and all that other stuff. And then it had, later on when it moved on to the present moment, and of course it had a wedding scene and all that other stuff. And weddings always get you emotional. So it the feeling and emotion, 4.5 out of 5. So for the overall Sweet 16 score for the Wood is a 12. So moving along to the photograph. The photograph came out, I believe, in 2020, and let me see the photograph. Come on, phone. Mercury retrograde. Yes, we're in the pre-shadow phase of Mercury retrograde. The photograph came out in 2020. 2020. 2020. 2020. The photograph came out in 2020. So, the photograph. I remember seeing the trailer for this movie, and this movie came out like right around the time the pandemic first started, and because it came out in movie theaters. I remember seeing it in the movie theaters. And I remember seeing the trailer and was like, yeah, this joint look good. I was like, yeah, I'm going to see this. Whether I'm going by myself or whatever, I'm going to see this movie. And it was interesting because this was Issa Rae's like first serious role or whatever. So I was kind of skeptical, but the trailer looked damn good. And it also had Lakeith Stanfield in it, had Shantae Adams in it, the new Nia Long. And it had, I don't even know how to pronounce my man's name. Elon Noel. It got Teyana Paris in it, Laura Rel in it. I had Courtney B. Vance. I had a good cast in it. So the story, like I said, I put these categories in place because I didn't want to be biased, but I love the photograph. I love the photograph just like I love Love Jones. But the photograph, I gave the story a 5 out of 5. Yes, I gave it a 5 out of 5. And the reason I gave it a 5 out of 5, I thought the story was great when it came down to showing how Issa Rae's character was basically how she was navigating through her love life, and her relationship with Lakeith Stanfield was a reflection of how her mom, who was Shantae Adams in the movie, was the same way with her relationship with Elon Noel. I thought the story for this movie was so great that it inspired me to write a blog on it, a blog post on it, greatestiamblog.com. And that blog was, I am a reflection of my reflexes. I thought the story was like almost perfect. Like, I thought it was a great story. It was like, it was mirror images, the relationships that was in the movie. And it basically showed how trauma or learn behavior or learn habits you can pick up from your parents, and how it basically you will mimic the same crap or the same stuff with when you're out in here dating and in relationships and stuff like that. So I gave that's the story 5 out of 5. 5 out of 5. The acting, I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. Issa Rae did a great job in it. Issa Rae did a great job, and I ain't trying to focus on but I gotta give her flowers. I gotta give her flowers that she did a good job, because she, you know, nobody wasn't thinking that Issa Rae was going to do this good of a job in a serious movie, because she's supposed to be like a comedian actor. I don't know if you can't call her a stand up comedian, but like she's on the comedian side, the goofy side type acting type stuff. Yeah. The feeling and emotion, I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. So the overall Sweet 16 score for The Photograph was a 14. Yes, The Photograph upsets The Wood. The Photograph was a very strong movie. So that's it of the first round. So let me gather my papers together again. We moving along to the Elite Eight. The Elite Eight. And so now we're in Elite Eight. We're adding another rating or category to the rating system, the overall scoring system. So these are the matchups: Love Jones versus Poetic Justice, Disappearing Acts versus Best Man, Boomerang versus Sylvie's Love, Waiting to Exhale versus The Photograph. So let's start with Love Jones. Love Jones. Like I said, I gave the story a 4.5 out of 5. I gave the acting a 5 out of 5. I gave the feeling and emotion a 4.5 out of 5. So now we come to the new category, the new rating, the new scoring, which is music. Music in the movie, not soundtrack, music in the movie. So for Love Jones, the music within the movie, I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. Yes, 4.5 out of 5. I mean, the music in Love Jones was great. You had the classic Maxwell song during the sex scene. Yeah, Neil Long. Yeah. Maxwell song. You had the good jazz music. It was a lot of good music, and Love Jones. So the overall score for the Elite Eight for Love Jones is 20.5. So moving along to Poetic Justice. Poetic Justice. I gave Poetic Justice a 4.5 out of 5. No, sorry. I gave Poetic Justice a 4 out of 5 when it comes to story. Acting, I gave 4.5 out of 5. Feeling and emotion, a 4 out of 5. And music, I gave it a 4 out of 5. So that brings Poetic Justice's overall Elite Eight score to a 16.5. So Love Jones moves on. So as we progress through the different rounds, it's going to go pretty quick because I've already gone through the explanations. Excuse me. Burp number 2. Burp number 3. Burp number 4. So 16.5 Elite Eight score for Poetic Justice. So Love Jones moves on. Love Jones moves on to the final 4. Next category, we have Next matchup. Next matchup. We have Disappearing Acts versus Best Man. For story, I gave Disappearing Acts 4.5 out of 5. For acting, I gave Disappearing Acts a 3.5 out of 5. And for feeling and emotion, I gave Disappearing Acts a 4.5 out of 5. For music for Disappearing Acts, I gave it a 5 out of 5. It was very strong music in Disappearing Acts, which helped to make the movie sad as fuck. So the overall Elite 8 score for Disappearing Acts is a 17.5. 17.5. Remember that, 17.5. So moving on to Best Man. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 for story, a 4 out of 5 for acting, a 4.5 out of 5 for feeling and emotion, and for music, I gave Best Man a 5 out of 5. So Best Man had a close win over Disappearing Acts. Best Man overall Elite 8 score was an 18 to Disappearing Acts 17.5. So Best Man moves along. To the Final Four. So now we have Boomerang versus Sylvie's Love. So I gave Boomerang story 4.5 out of 5. I gave the acting 4 out of 5. And I gave the feeling and emotion a 4 out of 5. Now music. Music for Boomerang, I gave a 5 out of 5, which brings it to a 17.5 overall Elite 8 score. 17.5. 17.5. Remember that. 17.5. So, moving on to Sylvie's Love. Sylvie's Love, I gave the story a 4.5 out of 5. I gave the acting a 5 out of 5. I gave the feeling/emotion 4.5 out of 5. Now for music for Sylvie's Love, I gave it a 5 out of 5. It was some good music in that old school, oldies music as well as jazz. So the overall for Sylvie's Love was a 19. Sylvie's Love beat Boomerang. Another upset by Sylvie's Love. Another upset by Sylvie's Love. Sylvie Love moves on to the Final Four. Okay. So now we got the final matchup in the Elite 8. Waiting to Exhale versus The Photograph. So, Waiting to Exhale story, I gave a 4 out of 5. Acting, I gave a 4 out of 5. Feeling and emotion, I gave a 4 out of 5. Now music. Music for Waiting to Exhale, I gave a 5 out of 5. Let's be honest, all these movies had great music. Pretty much all these movies, whether they made it to the next round or not, they all had great music. So the overall Elite 8 score for Waiting to Exhale is 17. 17. Remember that, 17. So now moving along to The Photograph. I gave the story for Photograph 5 out of 5. Acting, I gave a 4.5 out of 5. Feeling and emotion, I gave a 4.5 out of 5. Now for music for The Photograph, I gave it a 5. So we have a upset. The Photograph upsets another movie. Yes, The Photograph beats Waiting to Exhale 19 with an overall Elite 8 score of 19 to Waiting to Exhale's 17. So The Photograph moves on to the Final Four. So now we have the final four. Love Jones versus Best Man. And Sylvie's Love versus The Photograph. I think this is a strong final four. I definitely do. It's probably not the final four that some of you expected, but yeah, it works. And that's why I had the criteria and stuff in place, because I didn't want it to be totally biased. There had to be a system to this. There had to be a system. And I believe I did a very great job with my system. Yes. But I would take all feedback. You know what I'm saying? I love y'all feedback. So hit me up in the DMs and all that other stuff when you actually finish listening and watching this show. So now, first matchup in the Final Four. Love Jones versus Best Man. Okay. I gave Love Jones a 4.5 out of 5 story. 5 out of 5 acting. 4.5 out of 5 feeling and emotion. 4.5 out of 5 music. Now, love montage. Remember, I explained to you what a love montage is. And I used Rocky as an example when you think about training montages. And for some of you who probably never even watched Rocky, I know I got a lot of younger listeners. Think about Creed when they have the training, when they're getting ready for the fight. So a few love movies, I ain't gonna say a lot, a few love movies have love montages where they have several clips of moments of the couple together while they playing music. So I gave Love Jones a 5 out of 5 love montage. So bringing that final four score to a 25.5. 25.5. Now remember that. So 25.5. 25.5. 25.5. So going to Best Man, the opponent. Story, 4.5 out of 5. Acting, 4 out of 5. Feeling and emotion, 4.5 out of 5. Music, 5 out of 5. Now, love montage for Best Man was a 0. I'm sorry. I got to go based off of my criteria. No biases. The Best Man didn't have a love montage. They had, if you want to call it a montage, when Morris Chestnut was at the altar and he was crying and hiccuping from imagining Tay Diggs banging out his future wife. Yeah, but it was no love montage in Best Man. So Best Man's overall Final Four score was at 18. Love Jones moves on to the championship. 25.5 Love Jones to Best Man's 18. Sorry, Best Man. You're out of there. So, the next matchup is Sylvie's Love versus The Photograph. Two strong, surprising movies in this tournament. Sylvie's Love. I gave it the story of 4.5 out of 5. Acting, 5 out of 5. Feeling and emotion, 4.5 out of 5. Music, 5 out of 5. Love montage, I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. Bringing the Final Four overall score for Sylvie's Love to 23.5. 23.5, remember that. 23.5. 23.5. So, photograph. I gave the story a 5 out of 5. Acting, 4.5 out of 5. Feeling and emotion, 4.5 out of 5. Music, 5 out of 5. And love montage for the photograph is a 5 out of 5. So the photograph wins a close one. The photograph's overall Final Four score is 24. So it only beats Sylvie's Love by a half point. The photograph Final Four scores of 24 to Sylvie's Love final score of 23.5. The photograph moves on to the championship. So, the championship is set. Love Jones versus the photograph. Wow. Love Jones versus the photograph. How many of you predicted this? How many of your brackets are busted? So, Love Jones. Story. 4.5. And this is where we introduce the last and final category, the championship round. Best makeup scene. Best makeup scene. So, Love Jones. 4.5 out of 5 story. 5 out of 5 acting. 4.5 out of 5 feeling and emotion. 4.5 out of 5 music. Love montage. 4.5 out of 5. See, I messed up the last round. I mixed up the love montage and the makeup for Love Jones, but it don't matter. It was Love Jones was moving on regardless based off of the score. So the correct love montage for Love Jones was 4.5 out of 5. The makeup scene for Love Jones, of course, 5 out of 5. 5 out of 5 top. One of the top makeups for Black love movies. Which brings the overall final score for Love Jones at 28. Love Jones' final rating for all categories is 28. Moving on to the photograph. Like I said, there were 2 movies in this category, in all of these movies that mimic Love Jones. And the photograph is the second movie. The first one I talked about was Really Love. This second one was the photograph. The actual writer and director of the photograph actually did interviews and spoke on this. That the inspiration came from, a lot of the inspiration for the photograph came from Love Jones. So, story for the photograph, 5 out of 5. Acting, 4.5 out of 5. Feeling and emotion, 4.5 out of 5. Music, 5 out of 5. Love montage, 5 out of 5. Now, makeup scene, 4.5 out of 5. And I really could have gave it a 5 out of 5. But the reason I didn't give the makeup scene a 5 out of 5 was because Issa Rae went all the way across the country to make up with Lakeith Stanfield. Now I don't see that as being realistic. That ain't too realistic to have somebody, particularly the woman, going across the country to make up with the dude. But the makeup was really good. Really good. So I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. Which brings the total for the photograph at 28.5. 28.5. The Photograph wins the tournament for best black love movie. It beats Love Jones. Now, just speaking outside of the categories and ratings and just my biased point of view, I'm not shocked that these two movies made it to the final, but I am a little shocked that Love Jones lost to The Photograph. But just putting more of my bias into it and just mix with the categories, yes, The Photograph is a better love movie than Love Jones. It's a stronger love movie than Love Jones overall. And it didn't win by a lot. It only won by half a point. So, The Photograph is the champion. Is the champion. Now, some side stuff. Since this was a tournament and you have all these actresses and actors, in the movie, in these movies, the most valuable actress of the tournament was Sanaa Lathan. She was in 5 damn movies. 5 movies. She was in 5 movies out of the 16. 5 movies. And the crazy thing about it is they were all within a 2-year period. From 1999 to 2000. She was in 5 black love and romance movies. So, the most valuable actor in the tournament was Taye Diggs. He was in 4 movies. 4 movies. 4 movies out of the 16. And what's crazy is Sanaa Lathan and Taye Diggs were in 3 of those movies together. We got no diversity when it comes to love movies. Love and romance movies. That's why I think adds another element to The Photograph. It was something new with new actors and actresses in the movie. It was something new. So The Photograph is the top movie, is the champion of the black love and romance movies from the 90s up into the present. You have your most valuable actress, which is Sanaa Lathan, 5 movies. Taye Diggs, the most valuable actor, he was in 4 movies, and they were in 3 together. So now, to bring this to a close, I have the final rankings, the final overall rankings based off of overall score. Remember, at the beginning, I said I gave all of these movies an overall score based off of all 6 of the categories. Even though all of the categories wasn't used during each round. It honestly wouldn't have made no difference. But in order to make this interesting, the tournament, the bracket interesting, I divided the categories up to be in specific rounds. So, final rankings. The number 1 overall movie was, of course, The Photograph with a 28.5. Number 2, there was a tie between Love Jones and Sylvie's Love. So I put Love Jones at number 2 because it actually made it to the championship. Sylvie's Love is number 3. They both had a score of 28. Brown Sugar and Really Love both had a score of 24. Brown Sugar is ranked number 4, Really Love number 5. The number 6 movie is Best Man with a score of 23. The number 7th movie is Boomerang with a score of 22.5. And the number 8 movie also had a score of 22.5, Disappearing Acts. So Boomerang and Disappearing Acts both had a score of 22.5. Boomerang ranked number 7, Disappearing Acts ranked number 8. I mean, they can go either way. It doesn't matter. So the next 2 movies both had a score of 21.5. Number 9, Love and Basketball, and number 10, Poetic Justice. They can go either way. The number 11th movie and the number 12 movie both had a score of 20.5. So they can go either way. Number 11 being Waiting to Exhale, and number 12 being The Wood. The number 13th movie, the number 13 movie is Journal for Jordan with a score of 19. The number 14 movie with a score of 16.5 is How Stella Got Her Groove Back. The number 15 movie with a score of 15.5 is Jason Lyric. And the final movie, number 16, is If Beale Street Could Talk, 12.5. And these are the final rankings. The final rankings with the overall scores from all 6 categories, which were story, acting, feeling and emotion, music, love montage, and makeup scene. Photograph being the top dog. Yes. Now, this is the episode that I've been working on for damn near 2 weeks. I hope you enjoyed it. I expect and welcome all comments, conversation, whatever. It was fun putting this together. At times it was fun because some of the movies was trash. The bottom was. But it was fun. Yes, I love the fact that I came up with the rating system and all that other stuff. I just love my creative mind. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this episode. Like, share, subscribe, download. This is something, like I said, something different than the norm. Shout out to the YouTubers, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, all the streaming services. Instagram, A Taste to Consider Network. My main page, greatestiamblog.com, A Taste to Consider.com. I got the shirts, t-shirts, and stuff up there. Yeah, so I had fun. I hope you did too. Let me end it off with a song from the soundtrack and the movie of the number one movie, the champion, the top dog, The Photograph. Let me pull it up. A song. This is a song that I'm sure everybody heard before. So here we go. I'm out. I'm your host, Derek Silver. This has been a Taste to Consider podcast.